Welcome to Lakshadweep, the land of 100,000 islands, the aquatic wonderland of India, an archipelago of spectacular marine gems, colorful coral and crystal clear lagoons, a kaleidoscope of turquoise blue. Each island of Lakshadweep draws in explorers with its unique beauty. Witness idyllic sunsets and pristine beaches of Kavarati, the majestic lighthouse and colorful boat races at Minikoi. Experience water sports in the shallow lagoons of Kadmat. Unwind in the serene setting of Bangaram. Lakshadweep offers a precious heritage of ecology and culture, with rhythmic beats of folk dances echoing through these islands, delighting visitors in traditional folk dances and local artworks with abundant marine life and mineral resources. The islands are advancing towards a greener, brighter future. Lakshadweep is set to amaze visitors with its breathtaking wonders and picturesque seascapes, in the enduring spirit of incredible India.
मिठाई तो हमारे जमाने में होती थी।
हाँ तो जाइए ना अपने जमाने में।
रोमांस तो हमारे जमाने में होता था।
पेमेंट भी उसी जमाने का है। अरे भैया डिजिटल पेमेंट करना सीखे नए जमाने में। इजी सेफ एंड फास्ट है। हमने तो इनको डिजिटल पेमेंट करना सिखा दिया। आपने? ये सेल्फी लेते हैं। ये हमारे जमाने का है। आरबीआई कहता है कि
डिजिटल पेमेंट अपनाओ,
औरों को भी सिखाओ।
Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Shubhendu Ghosh, coming up in the next 30 minutes. Global and ASEAN top diplomats engage in Laos, focus on economic opportunities and conflicts in Myanmar and South China Sea. India deepens strategic ties with ASEAN. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu meets former US President Donald Trump in Florida. Trump pledges to work towards peace in the Middle East. And in Paris Olympics, India mixed teams failed to qualify for final round in 10-meter air rifle event. All eyes on Manu Bakar and Rhythm Sangwan in pistol event. India has deepened its strategic partnership with ASEAN as External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar held a series of high-level meetings on the sidelines of ASEAN Foreign Ministers' meeting in Laos. New Delhi's focus on strengthening bilateral ties and addressing regional challenges was evident during these engagements. Here's more.
External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar has reaffirmed India's steadfast commitment to the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, emphasizing its centrality to the country's Act East policy. On the sidelines of the ASEAN foreign ministers' meetings, he also held a series of high-level engagements to strengthen bilateral ties and address pressing regional issues. India and Laos pledged to deepen cooperation in development, defence and digital technology, reflecting the growing strategic partnership between the two nations. Dr. S. Jaishankar also commended Indonesia's leadership during the ASEAN chairmanship and expressed its appreciation for the contribution to India-ASEAN relations. As India seeks to enhance its partnership in the region, the meeting with South Korea focused on strengthening the special strategic partnership. With the European Union, discussions centered on deepening cooperation in trade, clean energy and emerging technologies. India and Singapore aimed to chart a new course for their bilateral relationship, while with Malaysia, the focus was on implementing initiatives to bolster bilateral ties. The ASEAN Post-Ministerial Conference provided a platform for India to articulate its vision for a peaceful and prosperous Indo-Pacific. New Delhi reiterated its support for Laos's ASEAN chairmanship and emphasized the importance of addressing shared regional challenges. Beyond economic matters, India also underscored its commitment to regional peace and stability. The Myanmar crisis and the complex dynamics in the South China Sea were key topics of discussion. India's position as a credible and balanced power in the region was reiterated, with a focus on diplomacy and dialogue as the path forward. As the region navigates complex geopolitical landscape, India's engagement with ASEAN has taken on increased significance. The meetings in Laos have reinforced India's role as a key player in the Indo-Pacific, committed to a rules-based order and inclusive growth. Its growing engagement was also underpinned by shared interests in economic growth, security and connectivity. By strengthening its ties with ASEAN member states, India aims to play a more influential role in shaping the region's future. Bureau Report, DD India.
India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar unveiled a special commemorative postage stamp set up by Lao People's Democratic Republic on Saturday. The set of two stamps depict Lord Buddha of the city of Luang Prabang, the ancient capital of Laos, and Lord Sri Ram of India's Ayodhya. The ties of Buddhism have bound India and Lao PDR together since a millennia. The theme of the stamp set is therefore aptly celebrating the shared cultural heritage of Lao PDR and India. Meanwhile, US Secretary of State Antony Blinken has urged Southeast Asian countries to help address challenges including Beijing's escalating and unlawful actions in South China Sea. Though Blinken singled out China over its actions against US defense ally, the Philippines, in the South China Sea, he lauded both countries for their diplomacy hours after Manila completed a resupply mission to troops in an area also claimed by Beijing. Blinken will hold talks with Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi after Saturday's security-focused ASEAN Regional Forum in Laos. Top diplomats of major powers, including Russia, Australia, Japan, the European Union, Britain and others are part of it. Meanwhile, global leaders and diplomatic representatives of Association of Southeast Asia Nations paid a courtesy call to Lao Prime Minister on Saturday ahead of East Asia Summit, an ASEAN regional forum. Subsequently, ASEAN leaders met with China, Japan and South Korea for the ASEAN +3 summit, established in 1997, focusing on economic opportunities and regional issues like the conflicts in Myanmar and South China Sea. The APT includes the 10 ASEAN member states along with People's Republic of China, Japan and the Republic of Korea. Australian Foreign Minister Penny Wong spoke on the conflict in military-ruled Myanmar. Speaking to reporters on the sidelines of the series on regional summits in Laos, Wong said Australia was deeply concerned about the Myanmar conflict and backed a peace effort by the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, ASEAN. Australia's Foreign Minister urged the ruling military and the looming conflict to work towards restoring democracy and stability in Myanmar.
So our message is we will continue to work with ASEAN and others to do what we can to find stability. But fundamentally, my message from Australia to the regime is this is not sustainable for you or for your people.
And DD India correspondent Jessica Taneja joins us live from the newsroom with more. Jessica, Dr. Jaishankar calls ASEAN the cornerstone of India's Act East policy. What are the key takeaways of engagements in this visit?
Well, Well, it's a significant year as well, Shubhendu. As you know, India completes 10 years of its Act East policy. Back in 2014, there was a framework that was looked into as to how there could be an enhancement and improvement of relations with the ASEAN nations. Particularly now, we also know that the 7 ASEAN member nations have also joined the Indo-Pacific Economic Framework, which has been a significant highlight of the event as well. And India has been able to sort of push forward its the free and open Indo-Pacific and rules-based order as India navigates the complexities surrounding the waters at this point. But more so, if you've seen with the engagements that the foreign minister has had with his counterparts, you'd notice that India has been able to push for what it does want to emphasize on at this point, especially with the ASEAN nations, particularly with Vietnam, Indonesia and the Philippines as well, and the kind of troubles they are facing back home when it comes to the South China Sea and the expansionism activities of China. But as for India, the focus has been on economics and security, and also to look at the slight trade imbalance over the years when it comes to the India-ASEAN free trade area, and also look at what more ways can the cooperation increase. For example, with Singapore, we have a payments linkage system which has been established, and that particularly could extend to more ASEAN nations. That would help push India's economic agenda as well, and more so to have more linkages just beyond the traditional security issues.
And in the larger context, with leaders of United States and China also present alongside ASEAN counterparts, what kind of breakthrough is expected on critical issues concerning South China Sea and Myanmar?
Well, particularly with the South China Sea, if you'd recall what the Philippines foreign minister had said, that him and his counterpart before the meet had agreed for a deal, especially when it pertains to the recent activities in the South China Sea, where the Philippines and the Chinese Coast Guard are involved in a tense water cannon fight. And that has seen some sort of de-escalation in the recent past, but that remains the main point of contention, and not just a problem for the Philippines when it comes to claims in the South China Sea by the Chinese. It's also Indonesia, which is facing trouble, not to forget Brunei and Vietnam. They're also on board when it comes to making that effort to get the Chinese to talk about what kind of security issues are emerging in the South China Sea right now. Of course, in the presence of the American counterpart, Anthony Blinken also there, the Chinese counterpart, Wang Yi also present. There have been various meetings on the sidelines, but if a breakthrough with the Philippines comes in, that sort of sets an example of a rules-based order, and perhaps a certain beginning where the Chinese are looking to agree to when it comes to territorial disputes. And talking about Myanmar, well, the second focus has been on Myanmar, and it is an ASEAN nation whose presence has not been there at this crucial meet in Laos. The reasons being, since 2021, the civil war, the coup in Myanmar, and Aung San Suu Kyi, their leader, behind bars, the situation has been tense. More than 5,000 people have died since then, 25,000 people still injured, 3 million people displaced. And there have been no negotiations, so to say, but the ASEAN nations collectively have a five-point peace deal plan, which hasn't been implemented yet because of no cooperation from the Myanmar side. And with the difficulties in place at present with the military junta in Myanmar, things are becoming difficult to implement, where it's difficult to even send reinforcements and also humanitarian aid to people in Myanmar. So these things, of course, top the agenda, and some solutions should be found.
All right, Jessica, thank you for joining us with those updates. Protests in outskirts of Islamabad in Pakistan have entered day 2 against inflation and taxes on energy bills. Hundreds of supporters of Pakistan's major Islamist party, Jamaat-e-Islami, staged a sit-in protest where they are demanding the withdrawal of heavy taxes on power and reduction in skyrocketing inflation. They say that inflated power bills and new taxation laws in 2024-25 annual budget had made their life miserable. Local authorities have barricaded major roads inside the capital city to prevent protesters from entering the red zone, where top government offices and diplomatic enclave and Parliament House are located. Moving on, former US President and Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump addressed the audience at the Turning Point Actions Believers Summit 2024 in West Palm Beach, Florida, and removed his bandage. Trump accused US Vice President and likely Democrat candidate Kamala Harris of betraying Israel for not attending this week's Prime Minister Netanyahu's address to Congress. The Republican candidate concluded by pledging to deport criminals and drug dealers, and he claimed Caracas have been turned into a crime-free city in Venezuela due to mass migration to the United States. Trump warned Christian voters on Democrats' plan for the Supreme Court.
Thank you very much, everybody. And I stand before you tonight thanks to the power of prayer and the grace of Almighty God. As I think you can see, I've recovered well and, in fact, just took off the last bandage off of my ear. I just got it off. Harris will appoint hundreds of extreme far-left judges to forcibly impose crazy San Francisco liberal values on Americans nationwide. She'll appoint hardcore Marxists to the Supreme Court to shred our Constitution and all of our religious liberty. She will do that absolutely. She will try as hard as she can to add as many justices as possible to the U.S. Supreme Court.
On the other hand, US Vice President Kamala Harris announced her candidacy for the November 5th presidential elections by signing the official forms. Harris, the first black woman and first Asian American to serve as vice president, US presidential hopeful Kamala Harris is set to head into a new week on the campaign trail with fresh endorsements from Barack and Michelle Obama. A handful of public opinion polls this week have shown her beginning to narrow Trump's lead. DD India's Mitch McCann gets us more from New York.
Obama's had been a notable omission from Kamala Harris's long list of endorsements, the former president and First Lady choosing to remain impartial and wait until Harris gained enough support to be considered the presumptive nominee. In a video posted on Kamala Harris's social media pages, Harris answers a phone call from Barack and Michelle Obama. The former president says, "We called to say Michelle and I couldn't be prouder to endorse you and do everything we can to get you through this election and into the Oval Office." Then, in a later statement, the couple said they would, quote, "do everything we can to elect Kamala Harris as the next president of the United States." In the coming weeks, Harris is likely to be formalised as the party's nominee and will choose a vice presidential candidate and running mate. It's reported Harris is considering 12 contenders at the moment, but among the most being talked about are Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro, Arizona Senator Mark Kelly, and North Carolina Governor Roy Cooper. Meanwhile, it's still unclear if or when Kamala Harris and Donald Trump will be seen together on a debate stage. Donald Trump's campaign said it would be inappropriate to debate Harris as she is only the presumptive nominee, and Democrats may change their mind. Harris has suggested that Donald Trump and his team are backpedaling and that she's ready. Mitch McCann in New York reporting for DD India.
US Vice President Kamala Harris is receiving zealous support from her ancestral village in India's southern state of Tamil Nadu. This comes after significant endorsements from prominent US figures such as former President Barack Obama and his wife Michelle for Kamala's presidential bid. In a remarkable display of cultural ties spanning continents, residents in Tulasanandranpuram village have conducted special prayers for success of Kamala Harris. The village's Dharma Sanstha temple, which holds significance for the Harris family, became center of these prayers. In the US, Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu met with Republican candidate for President Donald Trump on Friday, calling relations good between the two. Israel's leader is wrapping up a week in the US during which he pushed for continued support from Washington. DD India's Caroline Malone reports.
Well, Donald Trump pledged to work towards peace in the Middle East and to combat anti-Semitism. That on Friday after meeting with the Israeli leader Benjamin Netanyahu. And Netanyahu has been in talks with many different groups over this week. He met earlier in the week with President Joe Biden and then Vice President Kamala Harris, who of course is the likely candidate for the Democratic Party moving forward. You know, overall, it's a chance for Israel to continue to push to get support from the United States for its campaign, in particular against Hamas. In Netanyahu's wording to Congress on Wednesday, he was framing it as the US being the closest allies to Israel, needing Israel as an ally in the Middle East, and also the US and Israel having the same enemies. And so therefore any benefit, any win for Israel is also a win for the United States. But we also heard slightly different messaging from Harris and also from Trump in earlier interviews, Trump in particular saying he's keen to see an end to the war. He's keen to see the end of the fighting between Israel and Hamas. And Harris was saying much the same and going even further and saying she has very large concerns about the impact on the civilian population in Gaza. That's something that's been criticised by Trump and even some suggestion that it might impact any ceasefire talks. But ultimately, there does seem to be some agreement amongst most US leaders and potential future leaders here, which is that there needs to be a ceasefire, there needs to be a release of hostages, and that needs to happen sooner rather than later. Now, President Biden, of course, met with Netanyahu a few days ago. Now that he's not standing to be president again, analysts are saying it's an opportunity for him to have more capacity during his remaining time, 6 months in office, to focus on big foreign policy and domestic issues that include the Israel-Hamas war, with the US keen to continue to pursue peace talks and try to get ultimately to a ceasefire. Caroline Malone in Washington for DD India.
US Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin arrived in Japan on Saturday for high-level talks. The discussions would enhance defense cooperation and bolstering US-Japan alliance. The visit is part of US-Japan Security Consultative Committee meeting held in Tokyo. The Marvel duo of Deadpool and Wolverine lit up the skies above the San Diego as the film hit cinemas. Both lead actors Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman held a panel at San Diego Comic-Con. Drone fireworks featured both comic book characters separately and together. The film grabbed $38.5 million at US and Canadian box offices in the first screenings of the film. Large numbers of tourists turned out to watch the sunset over Santorini, Greece. Several people positioned themselves by the Oya Castle and took photographs of the sunset, which has become famous on social media. And still to come on this edition of DD India Live. Prime Minister Modi is chairing NITI Aayog Governing Council meeting in New Delhi. Meeting is focusing on developed India by 2047 vision. Heavy rains and flooding hit Mumbai and Maharashtra.
This summer, the world turns its eyes to Paris, and DD India brings you every heartbeat, every victory, and every story. Introducing our special coverage of the Paris Olympics. Experience the passion, the drama, and the triumphs. With exclusive reports, expert analysis, and up-to-the-minute updates. Join us as we bring the spirit of the Olympics to your screens.
Get ready for the ultimate sporting extravaganza on DD India.
DD India presents Champions Day Paris. Only on DD India. Every day at 6:30 p.m. IST, 1 p.m. GMT.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India Live. I'm Shubhendu Ghosh. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi is chairing the 9th NITI Aayog Governing Council meeting in New Delhi. The meeting is focusing on Viksit Bharat or Developed India at 2047 vision. The meeting aims to make India a developed nation by the year 2047 through collaborative governance with the theme Viksit Bharat at 2047. The meeting aims to foster participative governance and collaboration between centre and state governments. Discussions on approach paper for vision document are taking place and deliberations on the role of states in achieving the goal. As India targets to become $30 trillion economy by 2047, the meeting will create a roadmap for developed India through centre-state teamwork The focus is on recommendations from Third National Conference of Chief Secretaries held in December last year. People were rescued and shifted to safer locations in many districts affected by floods caused by incessant rains in South Gujarat and Saurashtra regions. Water has started receding from the residential areas of Navsari after water levels in Purnia River had gone below the alarming mark. The state has witnessed significant rainfall leading to severe flooding and damage in properties across 13 districts including Navsari and Dwarka. The rains have also lashed several parts of Bhopal city in Chhattisgarh. A flood-like situation has risen in Ganeshpur village of Baloda Bazar due to breach of the Dharchula Dam. Meanwhile, in Maharashtra's Kolhapur region, NDRF is keeping a close tab on stress calls after water of Panchganga entered many villages, prompting the agency to deploy forces to rescue and relief work. Our correspondent Yogesh Sheetal talks to Head of Relief Operations, Chandraketu Sharma.
The arrangement that we have done. We are doing recce work, homework, and the low-lying areas like Ambewadi, like Vadunge, Rajaram, Bandhara Dam. So these, and even in collector office nearby is Jayanti Nala, which has overflown. And we have done Mahavir Nagar ops also yesterday night, where we have evacuated 11 personnel. So these things are being carried out. The state administration as well as the central level, both are doing their lot to minimize the risk. What are the major challenges that NDRF faces? All the agencies, they are working at height. Even you have seen the Guardian Minister and other stakeholders, they are closely monitoring this flood situation. They are on regular visit to these places also.
And now let's talk about the Olympics. India's Paralympic campaign got off to a disappointing start as both pairs in the 10-meter air rifle mixed team event failed to qualify for the finals. The duo of Elvanil Valarivan and Sandeep Singh, along with Ramita Jindal and Arjun Babuta, were unable to secure a place among the top 4 teams. Elvanil and Sandeep finished 12th with the total score of 626.3. Meanwhile, Arjun and Ramita finished 6th with a score of 628.7. The Indian duo fell short of Norway and Germany's 629.7, who finished 4th and qualified for the bronze medal match. The main press centre at the Paris 2024 Olympic Games is a hub for global journalists. It's praised for its exceptional accessibility for differently abled reporters. Open 24/7 during the Games, the MPC offers top-notch facilities to ensure optimal working conditions. DD India's Narayan Singh brings us this exclusive report on the main press centre of the Olympic Games from Paris.
The main press centre for the Paris 2024 Olympic Games has become the focal point for journalists worldwide. Reporters, photographers and media representatives gather here to share the Games stories with a global audience. One of the standout features of the MPC is its accessibility for differently abled journalists. This commitment ensures all media professionals can work effectively.
It's a learning curve, especially for people in wheelchairs. I don't know if they know everything about the wheelchair accessibility, but it looks good. At the moment, I can go everywhere, and they're very friendly. They help me, so I'm very satisfied.
Open non-stop throughout the Games, the MPC is designed to be functional and efficient. It provides services to guarantee optimal working conditions. The venue is located within the Palais des Congrès Paris, aligning with Paris 2024 strategy to use existing venues. Sports journalists from around the world have shared their experiences at the MPC, praising its facilities and accessibility.
It's like my first day here, but I was in Tokyo, so it's a big difference. Now it's very nice to see a lot of people preparing Olympics, preparing the job, and I hope we will have a very nice Olympic Games.
It's the first time also here. The media center is like the biggest one I've ever seen, and let's see what will come from this experience. I'm very excited obviously about it.
The main press centre plays a crucial role in the outreach of the Games, allowing the media to convey the emotions and beautiful stories of the Olympics to the world.
The main press center of the Paris Olympic is unique in its own way. It is an already existing venue and therefore it is helping to save the environment. With camera person Senthil, Narayan Singh for DD India, Paris.
That's all for this edition of DD India Live. Let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on DD India mobile app. This app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan this QR code on your screens to download now. And we'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Shubhendu Ghosh for all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India Live. Namaskar.